Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to our juniors and junior family. I have with me Darryl Jones from Gettysburg College, a veteran in the admissions field and someone who has been reading college essays for 35 years. So really has some great things to share with you. Darryl's been reading applications for Berkeley Carroll for many years and is quite familiar with our students and with our school. And we wanted to start off our essay writing video series with a general question about the college essay itself. I always think about the college essay as being the part of the app that you have the most control over. It's also the part of the application where you spend the most time. And we know that in the college office because we do help students to shape their essays. So I think my first question for you, Darryl, is just to tell us, what is the essay? What's it supposed to be?
So thanks for that question and welcome to all the Berkeley Carroll families. I think it's the piece that tells me your story. And by your story, I don't mean autobiographical, I just mean your story. We're going to get a transcript. That's impersonal because it's a record of what you've done. And we do recognize that Berkeley Carroll is a special place, but grades are grades. If you have testing, testing is testing. Your activities are built based on what you've chosen to do and hopefully show your passions. But it's rare that we get the opportunity to know how you express yourself in the written sense. It's the piece that we call each other over to our monitors, or in the old days when we used a crazy thing called paper, we would say, you need to read this. This is the idea behind the perfect application essay.
I had a couple of students just in the last few weeks asking me whether an essay needed to be like a resume and needed to highlight activities, or and one that thought it was like an 8 to 10 page paper, like their American Studies end of year paper that they just handed in. What can you give us some idea of the logistics on it, the length, and kind of the areas that it often will cover?
So you might have seen the brief look of fear on my face when you said 8 to 10 page paper or just a fleshed out resume. I'm going to be blunt. Don't sell yourselves short that way, and don't hurt us by doing such a thing. What I want is for somebody to pick a moment, a thing, an idea, not a long piece that powerfully captures the essence of who you are that will not be seen somewhere else on the application. So rehashing of the resume, don't do that. We see what you've done, the number of hours of weeks or number of weeks you've done it, number of hours per week you've done it. We need you to just say this. Without this, these people won't know really who I am, but with this, they're going to catch an angle that my teacher recommendations won't cover, my counselor recommendations won't cover, my resume won't cover. So it's an idea that you should think through first. And then in the old days, we'd say, write it out. And I say today, you should write it out. There is a cognitive process, and I'll maybe cover this again later, that allows you to capture ideas better if you think it and then physically write it onto paper. So this idea behind the application essay is to capture a piece of you that nothing else will, and to make me know more about you than if I didn't have an essay. The length is pretty easy. Follow the directions. So if the directions indicate 650 words, you know that 300 is too few, and you know that trying to force through 650 to the number is unnecessary. Express the idea naturally, and that's what you need to do. And if you love the idea, it shouldn't be that difficult.
I think you've answered the why it matters and why it's important in this process. I wonder if this year, with a number of schools augmenting their test policies and saying they're going testing optional either for the year, for several years. I know you all have had that policy for a while, but do you think that the essay is going to be more important to some schools this year?
I'll tell you what, Carolyn, I've been saying that to people, so I'm going to speak it into existence. You know, we've always been getting, again, teacher recommendations, and we love reading the teacher recommendations, especially from Berkeley Carroll, because they really capture the essence of the student. And of course, we love your recommendations because you really communicate to us in a way that we want. And part of that is because of your great college counseling experience, and part of it is having done this profession. But you know what? People, when they're doing this essay thing, I mean, I am going to probably overuse this phrase, but there is no other way to capture that essence. And for a place that is unlike ours, that might be new to this whole test optional thing, why do you think they have you write an essay? Because it matters. For a place like us that won't have the privilege right now of having you visit and meet face to face, or go to one of our off-campus interviews in New York City. What's the piece that tells me who you are? It's your essay. So I think it is going to matter more, and whether my colleagues at other places admit to it, again, it's the piece that is going to be an anchor, because I can look at a transcript in 30 seconds and know who you are. For those who have had the privilege of taking the ACT or SAT, that's a quick look. That takes a second. Recommendations take a little longer, but again, we can read a resume and know the number of hours per week, number of weeks per year, number of years you've done a thing. But that essay is going to capture, for those of us that care about community building, the essay is going to be how we do it, because it's you, it's your words, it's your expression, and doing it authentically is going to matter more than ever.
I like that you touched on the idea of authenticity, because I think that's a really important factor. We use the words genuine and organic and authentic as really important pieces of putting together an application. And students don't know who they're writing for. You know, if they're only applying to Gettysburg, they might know that they're writing for your eyes. But for the most part, they don't know who is reading those applications. So given that, what are some of the things that you hope to see? And can an essay make the difference? Or are we sometimes putting almost too much pressure on it?
So this might sound a bit odd. It's super important, but I want you to write it as if it's not. So here's the deal. If you're authentic and you love your topic, you don't have to do 5 drafts. You get it done in fewer, and you'll have the energy to proofread because you love what you've put out there. But for me, I mean, here's an example of what I've seen. People who have tried to use humor who are actually pretty serious people. So that's a mistake because it's not authentic. People who have tried to be creative who are not really creative, they're more straight ahead people. It's a failure because it's not authentic. Or people who have stifled their creativity because they've been told by someone not to be creative. Again, authenticity is capturing a piece of who you are, and we want you to do that. So the way to know is, first, as you're composing it, are you drained from the process? If you are, then something's off. You're not being true to you. If you're energized by it, it's going to actually be something enjoyable to compose. So my thing about authenticity is this: it is hard work to be someone who you are not. It is easy to be you. So when people start going to a thesaurus or dictionary or some other lexicon, looking up a bunch of brand new words and maybe misusing them, it becomes tough to read. I mean, we know that we're dealing with a bunch of brilliant teenagers, but the difference is you're teenagers. And we know how brilliant teenagers write. And I'm saying this to the parents. Parents, you can help proofread, but that's about it. Once you start feeding words and phrases and experiences to your child, it goes off the rails. We know the difference. And again, in my office, I have 3.5 decades of experience, and you can expect to see that in pretty much any place you'd apply. So authenticity wins the day. So yeah, there's pressure because it's one of the key ways and crucial ways that we get to know you. But it's all about getting you to just be you. That's easy work.
Are there bad topics out there? Are there things that students should stay away from? I mean, I think sometimes students want to make their essay the most unique and the most or the best of this particular category. Are there things that they shouldn't write about, things that they should write about?
Gosh, that's a loaded question, my friend, but here goes. If you've played a part in the big game and it meant that much to you, go for it. If it didn't, don't. If a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, a parent has meant a lot to you, write about the influence that person has had on you, but make it about you, not that person, because honestly, if you write that much about your grandparent and make that person interesting, we don't learn about you, we're going to want to admit your grandparent and not you. If it's about a tragic event in your life, some out there say don't write about it. I say write about it, but write about how you've come through it, how you've recovered, how you've gotten stronger, how we know that you're going to be a more resilient person because of it. So I have some mild arguments with my colleagues at other places about this. I say that no topic is off the table as long as that topic is you and authentically you. But you can make mistakes. If you choose a topic because it's a popular item, we're going to wonder why. So the proverbial, I went to Ecuador and built a school and I learned so much about the culture. Well, tell me that you're hungry to go back to Ecuador and that you've actually gone back to Ecuador, then I'm a believer. But if you just spent a week there, I'm not a believer. So tell me what fuels you, what spurs you, what makes you you. And any topic is fine by me. But again, Carolyn, there are mistakes I've seen that I've wondered. So you weren't a part of that theatrical production as a stage manager, as a person who does props. Did it really change your life? Or you weren't playing in the big game? Did it really change your life? So it's not that the topic has to be that weighty. It just has to be that you were the center of the action. And for once, I'm going to tell you to write with an ego and make yourself the central character in whatever you give to us.
You and I talked a little bit about influence and impact, and you challenged me to come up with some other I words. So I came up with important and investigate, identity. All of those things end up being sort of ways to envision this storytelling, that these are some of the messages to get across. I think students are pretty good with their gut instincts. I think you're right. Sometimes if you're struggling to write about a topic, it's hard to write about because it's not the right topic for you. So I so appreciate that advice. To wrap this up, are there big do's and don'ts that the students should be thinking about?
Well, first, I'm going to give you an A plus on your I word homework. So thank you so much for doing that. Congratulations. Here are some do's. Do enjoy the process. This idea of being locked in because of the pandemic, I mean, it still gives you time to stare out a window at the sky and allow your brain to just roam free. So do allow your brain that time to roam because some topic may come to you. The whole idea about enjoying, again, you are writing about a topic of your choosing. It's not an assignment from a teacher. It's not an expository writing task. So do avoid just doing an expository example of a term paper. Do give me a reason to want to read your essay again and call a colleague over to my monitor and read it with me. Do give me a reason to be so authentic that we want to flash your essay onto the big screen in our committee room. The don'ts are pretty simple. Don't listen to advice that you know has not come from somebody in this profession. So if it's not an admission person and it's not someone in your college office at Berkeley Carroll or someone who does this profession at a school, I don't know if the advice is going to be good because you're going to be getting advice that was given to other people. Avoid cliches. This literally happened at Gettysburg College. We received, this was a long, long time ago when we still received applications by mail, but an application that was sent in a loafer. And it literally, you know what's coming, Carolyn. It was about getting my foot in the door to Gettysburg College. We got another from a person who literally made a giant paper mache fortune cookie and mailed his essay in that. Folks, we've seen all the tricks. Don't try to imitate them. Another don't, if you see topics on the web, avoid them because millions of people have seen those topics. But my whole desire for all of you, again, is to make sure you enjoy this process because it's something we want to enjoy about you. Even though what you're submitting is done through an electronic medium, I do feel there is some kind of psychic connection between someone whose recommendations I've read, whose resume I've perused, whose interview I might have done virtually right now, but hopefully again sometime in person, who we might have met at a school visit or a college fair, and that essay. There is a connection that I want you to understand that is almost like the Olympic ring logo. Yes, each is separate, but there's an overlap, a Venn diagram, if you will. We want the essay to be the heart of that, to tie things together, not by mentioning all the other things, but by being an anchor through which we get to know you better. So I love reading essays. That is my favorite part of application review. And to all the students and families, I want you selfishly to keep me loving it.
Excellent, Darryl. Thank you very much. And to the students out there, our next two videos will be about brainstorming and writing supplementary essays. So stay tuned. Thanks so much, Darryl.
Good luck, everybody. Thank you, Carolyn.